Welcome to the podcast for emerging and blue-collar leaders. This is The Growth Project. G'day.
There you go.
Good. This is exciting. This is the first one where I've actually sat with someone, which is really cool. And what a way to do it.
Absolutely. Cheers, mate.
Cheers. Just nice little tipple of whiskey there. Good way to do it. So I need to introduce someone, and that is John Granat. John's a technical training manager, and he's a workplace trainer. He's a coach and a mentor. And this particular episode, I really wanted to talk to you, John, because I wanted to touch early in the piece on, I guess, empathy and checking in with people, and because I think it's really important part of day-to-day life. But as a leader, I think it's an excellent skill to have. And I think there is some skill to it, but I think some people are probably more predisposed to it. But I see you as a bit of a ninja when it comes to this kind of thing. And I've been the beneficiary of your empathy many times, where you might have noticed that I've been a little bit off center, and you've come in and checked on me and given me an empathetic ear. And I think there's a lot of people that feel very confronted by that and struggle with that. But I think it's so important for a leader to be self-aware about that. And it does help. I think it's really a critical part of building trust and better relationships in the workplace and in personal life, I guess, as well. So I really appreciate you agreeing to come and have a chat with me about it.
No, thank you for having me.
So the workplace environment, I think, has changed a lot over the years. And I think for the most part, I think there's a lot of people that are more open to talking about this kind of thing and linking things like a lot of guys in the industries we work in. You'd probably see it a lot. There's a lot of macho and, this kind of chit chat makes me feel a bit uncomfortable, right? And you probably see it a lot too, where you go and work with people.
There's definitely a shift, but I would agree that the general consensus is that we don't talk about that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's a generational issue, but it is shifting. I think in a positive way. People are happy to have a chat or happy to ask someone if they're okay without it being some sort of, piss take or making fun of or I do think there is a shift, but I agree with you that we have to contend with that on a daily basis based on the clientele we have.
So you think we still might have a way to go?
Oh, definitely. I think there's still peer pressure on bravado and displaying some sort of I'm okay when I'm not, or showing weakness of some description. But I do believe that we're winning that race, and it's. Back when I was a kid compared to now, a lot of my childhood would you didn't talk about sort of stuff. It was definitely keep it in house, and a lot of my family makeup was would push that as well. Once I got into the footy club, actually, it's funny, you'd think it would be the opposite, but it was actually very close footy club, and people started to talk really freely, and we were very encouraging of that. I think that's probably where it started for me. But I do think it's changing. I think it's a really positive place to be at the moment.
Yeah, and it's good to see that, and it's exciting to be a part of that too. And I know you've really enjoyed being part of that and having conversations with people in industries and making it seem okay for people. And I guess just to come back and rewind it a little bit to give it a little bit of context. So John and I work together, and we have for a while now, and we've known each other for a lot longer than we've worked together. And so, we happen to work together, and John is a leader himself. And but more importantly, John has been out there just as much as I have having these conversations with guys and running workshops and sessions and things like that. And we're getting just excellent responses. And to me, I feel like there's a big thirst for it, because at first, maybe you can share an insight, but for me, what I see when we're starting sessions like this, a little bit of discomfort at first, but when people start to feel comfortable and see that, other guys and other people are willing to talk about this as well, it's quite amazing sometimes what comes up and what you see happening between people, isn't it?
It's definitely a trade-off. I think I go into those sessions prepared to share myself, and I start the ball rolling. Nothing's really off limits. I'll talk about my own experiences, and we're specifically talking about human-to-human interaction. It's not necessarily work-based. That's the platform we sell it from, but I'm talking about just interactions in life, and I think I start the ball rolling, but you do sort of see them warm up pretty quickly, and there is a thirst. I think the buy-in happens pretty quickly, and before you know it, you've got this really healthy conversation going on in a group setting, which is amazing, especially for delivering content.
Yeah, and it's really obvious, really stands out too, isn't it? Because I know you get the same thing. You'll get one or two people that want to linger around just a little bit after everybody else in the room leaves, and they want to come and talk to you a little bit more about one of their experiences, or just share their thoughts on what we were talking about for the day. And I think that just for some of these people, that takes some courage, right? And what you're saying too is that it takes a bit of courage and vulnerability on your part to facilitate that and make that a safe space for people to talk.
As a facilitator, you've got to set the tone. And I do that, again, by sharing. And it's amazing how people just, the walls come straight down. As soon as you start to talk real with them, from a leadership standpoint on, it's funny, this is about empathy and being not afraid to ask those questions. Giving people the examples of my own experiences with that, it's amazing. You said that people will stay back afterwards and ask you questions and continue that conversation. I've had people days later or weeks later, send messages or make a phone call. Something's obviously resonated with them. So, no, it's a really positive space to play in.
Wow. Yeah. No, it is exciting to be a part of it. The reason I wanted to talk to you so early about this is that I think it underpins a lot of the themes that I'm going to explore on as I go through this little project that I'm working on now. So, and again, like I said, I see you a bit of a master in this area, but I titled this episode, I guess, The Art of Checking In, because I think, and I want to pick your brains too, I'm thinking that a lot of people might think this is unattainable, but I think it's a learnable skill. What do you reckon?
It's funny, until you sort of said to me that you'd identified that it was a skill of mine, I hadn't really thought about it, although I had shared with you a couple of instances where I just so happened to ask the right question at the right time and got not more than I bargained for. I openly asked for the conversation, but I asked the question at the right time to these certain people, and the floodgates open. And I wonder whether I've had a hit rate of being that person that asked that question. I think at a really good time, that it was not a breaking point, but it was getting close. But I do think there's some signs and things you can look for that can, definitely help you get better at this for sure.
I find it funny that you say that, because I had that as a checkpoint, because I'm curious to know what things and obviously we can't go into specific details, but what sort of things are you consciously looking for things, or do you just happen to notice them, or?
Not consciously. I have, since you mentioned wanting to do this chat, and I don't have tickets on myself, but the fact that you gave me some really positive feedback in this space, I had to think about it, and it is a little bit of the vibe. Sorry, the castle reference there, but lack of eye contact, energy in the way someone projects their voice. I think that's something that you get off anybody. There's been days where you've asked me and I've asked you, because I know you pretty well and I can sense that.
Yeah.
And the other people that we work with. But when it's someone that you're not familiar with, I think it's body language you would associate with someone that had a lot on their mind. And for me, that's eye contact and fidgeting, and even the ability to project your voice when you do want to talk. That to me screams of someone that's it's not a confidence thing, it's something different. There's something on their mind for sure.
Yeah, okay. So I think everyone sees the value in this from a human level in terms of, put it into the context of private life and mates and friends and whatnot. But as a leader, how do you rate the importance of someone looking out and finding ways to feel comfortable to go and have that chat?
It's funny. Football has taught me a lot about life and dealing with people. I was lucky enough to play American football for 11 years. In those 11 years, I captained Victoria, I captained Australia. I was team captain in most of those years from very early on. I feel like I was all about when you're building a team, and I think on a smaller scale, on a daily training session, you are building a team because you've all got a common goal. I really wanted to throw out a sense of we're in this together. And I never asked someone to do something that I wasn't prepared to do myself. I think that goes back to sharing in the classroom, right? So I might have got a little bit sidetracked there, but I think I've always enjoyed that team feeling to anything I do, the interactions with other people. And when I feel like that part of the team is struggling or in a bad place, on a very same scale but different context, someone misses a play in football, there's no point tearing that person down. It's about building them back up so they come back twice as hard. And I felt like that worked really well for me. I had senior players that had played 10 years longer than me coming up to me for advice during football. And it wasn't about a skill level thing. It was just from that, again, I think leadership point of view. I really enjoy that. You lean on me, I'll lean on you. We'll make each other better. I think that's probably where it started for me. And, yeah, football's been the big one where I've kind of based that all off.
Yeah, and it's the parallels of team sports and workplace teams, I think, are probably a lot closer than a lot of people give credit to, would you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Communication, encouragement, positive reinforcement, feedback.
Yep.
Those all happen, maybe not as structured as they are in the workplace, but the basis of all of it starts on that sort of setting. Yeah,
because when I think people feed off the energy of other people around them, and do you think that's part of what you're talking about?
Absolutely. We're in a unique situation when we walk into a classroom with a bunch of strangers, right? They don't know you from a bar of soap, or they know your name, or they may have done a session with you years before. To be able to, create some sort of connection early on in the piece is probably the goal. So you get buy-in and you get a positive outcome for the day. This space is a really interesting one to dance in, the training space. It's probably what I like it the most, the human interaction. That part I think is probably the most rewarding. And since we've been running these sessions, some of the outcomes we've had there has been pretty exciting.
Yeah, sometimes you see a completely different side to people when you open their mind, or when they show that they're open-minded enough to talk about it and think about it and share information and share to some extent, I guess, their stories and thoughts. You see a different side to people that you've never seen before, and I think you really respect when they go there, because we know how hard it is for some of these people to do that, because it requires them to put their defenses aside and lower them down a little bit.
I've had several participants that have a negative connotation when it comes to training. Walk in that room and, with their arms crossed, sit at the back of the room, or no eye contact, no communication. And understanding that, reading that person and dealing with them the right way, or feeding them opportunities to contribute. That's where it's the most exciting and the most rewarding in what we do. Yeah. Facilitating that is probably the most exciting thing about being a trainer.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Let's do a little bit of a look at this through the lens of, tradies, utilities workers, civil workers, and people working out there in the field. Might be small teams, one, two, or three other people working with a leader or a crew leader. And how would you expect people working in these kind of blue collar environments to spot? I mean, we're talking about things we might see in a classroom, and talking about a classroom environment. Let's put it in the context of someone who's working in a crew of three people. You're digging trenches and laying pipe in the ground. What sort of things would you expect to see from someone who might be struggling with something? What sort of behaviours or things might you look for?
I think as humans, we fall into routine. We have, I don't know about you, but I actually enjoy that sort of structure in life as well, to some extent. But someone that's going about their business in a robotic sense, that's not giving you that, I suppose, that interaction level that you would expect, that could come in so many forms. So at the start of the day, you'd expect people to be a little bit flat, a little bit tired, a little bit off. But then, in your own groups, you've got a level of banter that you would expect some sort of interaction with. And when you start throwing those little branches out to start a conversation, to make the workday go along, it's, again, energy in the response, eye contact, positive body language, the speed at which they're moving around the site. Even on their downtime, I found this is a really big one. So in break times, how are they spending that time? I always worry about a student that doesn't want to go out and have a coffee and have a chat with people, or is content in sitting in the room and reading on their phone.
So isolating away.
Yeah. Withdrawn for sure.
Yeah.
And to that extent, if they want to sit there by themselves, I might throw a question out like, how was the weekend, or what's on for the weekend? How about those Tigers, whatever, just to sort of see how they're going.
When you say, how about those Tigers, you're trying to make them even sadder. Is that what you're doing? That's just a little bit cruel.
It's true. It's so funny. I work a lot in New South Wales, and I'm not necessarily a league fan, but I've found that just having a bit of an interest and sharing that in the classroom has been a great pathway to conversation. So it's not that the people you work around they don't have to replicate how you feel or how you interact. I think you would probably say that I'm pretty jovial. I like to have a laugh, and I try to raise the mood up when I'm working with people. I find that the workday is more enjoyable. It's more fun. Obviously there's a line there, but I think that's what builds the team, when people are having a laugh and getting on with their job. If you feel that people aren't buying into that, that's a fairly positive thing to be around. If you can't get some sort of interaction with that, I think that's a really pretty telling point there that there's something up.
Yeah, and particularly if you know that person usually. So to some extent, it sounds like you're leading to, or you've touched on, different behaviours from the norm, from what you'd normally see from them. So you might not see certain behaviours that you normally do, or vice versa. Absolutely.
Again, I can't sort of move away. I've said it a few times, and I apologise for that. But if I'm in a room with someone having a chat one-on-one, and it's nothing to do about what they have to get done in the next session or anything like that, it's just how's work been, or what do you got anything planned for the holidays, and I still don't get anything. That's a pretty big tell that someone's being approachable to you and friendly and having a laugh with you, and has already broken down the barriers within the start of the class. You would expect something back. It could be that they just don't want to talk. I don't always get it right, but it doesn't cost you anything to check. I think that's probably what you're getting at, or eventually getting at, is that I've always gone with the idea that I'm not going to die wondering. I'd rather ask you a couple of times, how you going? Is everything all right? And you say I'm fine, than not ask and wish I had have.
Yeah. And that's where I think your real strength is. And I think some people really struggle at that point. They can feel it. They can see something's not right. They can feel something's not right. But then there's the, what do I do next, right? And there's actually a really great, if anyone out there is looking for some good leadership content to follow, you go and search anything Simon Sinek, and you'll just have your mind blown. He's really excellent. I've got a really quick grab here that I think leads us into the next question I want to ask you really well.
So why is it that when somebody has performance problems at work, why is it that our instinct is to say, you're out? We do not practice empathy. What does empathy look like? Here's the lack of empathy. This is normal in our business world. You walk into someone's office, someone walks into our office and says, your numbers have been down for the third quarter in a row. You have to pick up your numbers, otherwise I can't guarantee what the future will look like. How inspired do you think that person is to come to work the next day? Here's what empathy looks like. You walk into someone's office, someone walks into your office and says, your numbers are down for the third quarter in a row. Are you okay? I'm worried about you. What's going on? We all have performance issues. Maybe someone's kid is sick. Maybe they're having problems in their marriage. Maybe one of their parents is dying. We don't know what's going on in their lives. And of course it will affect performance at work. Empathy is being concerned about the human being, not just their output.
So the reason I wanted to cue that one up and bounce off that one is because I think what we often see from people is, let's say there's some performance problems, someone's making mistakes, there's been a stuff up somewhere, and there can be a tendency to fly off the handle and give that ultimatum, right? And we see this a lot when you're looking blue collar environments. This is a common scenario, right? So it takes and it can be hard in a leadership role. It can be hard to deal with that immediate frustration that you feel, can't it?
I feel like, excuse me, I feel like you got to ask yourself the question first, what am I building here? What kind of team am I trying to create? Well, how have I incentivized my team to start with? If someone's dropping off, then I feel like, yep, it could go to the person and you could, it could be something up with them, or it could be a deeper lying issue, or it could be the environment in which they're in. If given the right incentives, they may be the most fantastic worker you've ever had. I can't go away too much from this. I love working in a team, and I really bounce off well with a team that has my back. Even just offering that support and letting your teammates or workmates know that you're there to assist or support, I think that's a huge one. You've been fantastic at that, where the workloads have been crazy at some points, but we have each other's back. We touch base. We have a phone call from time to time or a text message. We know that we're in it together. I think you go the extra mile if that's the case. If you're in a happy workplace or the environment's good, that productivity or that output, it takes care of itself. So yes, it can be that someone's going through some stuff and you may need to check in, but maybe even just touching base to see, for the sake, just to know that that's a part of what work culture you want, and not even hide away from it, doing it in front of a group and checking in with each other and just seeing how everyone's going, knowing that that's acceptable. That's the kind of team that I want.
Yeah,
you're very good at that in building what you've got here in your company. That you're open and honest with everyone, and very sharing with your own experiences, and you're not afraid to ask people and check in on people as a group, which I think is a massive positive for where I work.
Oh, well, thank you. I do think I could do it better, because I find myself sometimes feeling
you're right.
I could sit for an hour going, okay, this person's off. What do I say? They don't look like they're ready for me to talk to them yet. They look like they might just want some space, and all these things running through my head. And I think this is where some people stop, because they've got this internal dialogue. What next, right?
What's the worst that could happen from asking someone? I'll probably ask you.
They would probably say, I'm all good, to fob it off, right? Yeah.
So I ask people how I'd want to be asked. I can only know what's going on in my own brain. I know when I'm a bit off, I don't want to talk. I internalise and I'm a bit quieter, or I want to remove myself from a space if I'm not in the right headspace. For me, if I asked and someone said, no, I'm all good, I still feel confident they would walk away from that interaction going, that was cool that you asked.
Yeah, right.
That they've still got someone there that was noticed.
Yeah.
And I think that's a positive, even if I get nothing out of it. I don't ask someone how they are for me. I ask how they are for them. So I don't want anything from that exchange other than hey, I'm here for you if you need us.
What an excellent point, because you're right. What's the worst that could happen? What's the worst that could happen is that they go internally, they clam up and go, oh, this is too uncomfortable. I need to stop this. I need to get this instant scenario away and closed and finished. Just say, yep, I'm all good. But then you're right. In the back of their mind, they cared enough to ask. So that's enough motivation, isn't it? That having that in front of mind, that worst case, they're going to say, yep, I'm all good. And then that's it for that moment. And it doesn't have to feel awkward for long if it does feel awkward for you. But that you've planted a seed, haven't you?
Absolutely. It is a tricky one to navigate because, look, I think from my own experiences, I've got people in my life where they don't give you an answer off the bat. Like they'll say no as a default. I'm okay as a default.
Yeah.
I'm probably an oversharer. If you ask me and I'm in a bad headspace, I'm probably going to tell you. Whereas I know people, my loved ones, that they don't replicate that. They're very much, you got to ask. You may have to ask 10 times.
Yeah.
But that goes back to reading the room and understanding who you're talking to and, the setting. In a professional sense, I think, again, I think that's a great way to offer support. Hey, mate, are you all right? Is everything going all right? I've noticed this or this. It could be just me, but I don't think I lose anything in that interaction. I don't think they lose anything. It's only a positive to come out of that.
If I think back to the times you've approached me, it's always in a particular setting. So for me, I'm wondering how you gauge that and if there's any planning to that for you. Because when you go in to check in on someone, are you choosing your time and space knowing that they might need some time to talk?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you don't mind me using you as an example,
Sure.
You are in the greatest way an emotional person in the right setting, and we've had a couple of great chats. I know you're very approachable, and especially I feel like you're a deep thinker as well, that you would appreciate where it was coming from even if you didn't want to talk. But I also know I think you've got to have a bit of an appreciation for the person you're speaking to. Now, if that's a stranger in a classroom, it really is about a privacy thing. Do it in a place where it's a one-on-one scenario, just in case. For us, we've got some people in our organisation that we're pretty comfortable with. That in the right setting, we share quite a lot. But I definitely put some thought into. I don't just observe it and then say it. It's okay when this happens and this happens, and at this part of the day, I think this would be the right time to do this. Or it could be, no, he's not in the right headspace. I'm going to invite him around for a beer. Or let's go do something, or hit a bucket of golf balls, or so yeah. I try to. I don't know if I get it right all the time, but there's definitely. I've got several mates as well who've had the same scenario with that. It's not about asking them if they're okay. It's just spending time with them until they're prepared to share. So doing an activity, playing golf, or going for a beer or for a meal somewhere, and just wait. Eventually, it'll come. They'll open up.
Yeah, awesome. That's some excellent insights there. So when you do have that chat, and when you do approach it, or when they're ready to talk to you, I think obviously we don't need to be prepared to solve their problems, to give them advice on how they fix whatever the situation is, right? So do you think that maybe that some people don't ask people how they're going and if they're okay because they think they don't have the skills to fix the problem and they think that they might need to?
I feel like at that point, someone's been bouncing something around in their head for a long time. If I'm honest, I have to fight the urge to not give advice. It's not even that I feel like I've got great advice. I feel like I just want to help them get rid of the problem. I don't know if that's a male thing or a me thing. So my tendency is to go, I see problem, fix problem. But it really is just about being a space, isn't it? Like just being a sounding board. I'm trying to think back to some of the interactions I've had. I've definitely given advice, but I definitely wait for an opening. It's not, I don't try to shove that down anyone's throat. I'm just listening and being supportive. And 100% not judgmental. I ask for a reason. You open that door, you've got to be prepared for what comes after. So I suppose, again, what am I trying to get out of this? It's not for me. Is it for me or is it for them? For me, in my head, it's for them. So if it depends how that response comes. If they openly offer some if they openly ask for some advice, that's different. Even then, I'd be very cautious about offering too strong of advice. They're already in a vulnerable state. My personal feeling shouldn't really come into it. It's not my situation; it's theirs.
Yeah.
So it's more about just being supportive and allowing that person to talk. They've get out of your head. Stop thinking about it.
Yeah, good. So if someone did start opening up and asking for advice, and you're not feeling comfortable enough to do that, because, you might be thinking, well, this could be a serious problem for them. I'm not sure if the advice is going to be right. What would you encourage people to do instead?
Well, in the classroom, when you get asked questions in front of a room full of people and you don't know the answer, what's the rule you and I go by?
You go and talk to someone or ask.
I don't know. I'll go find you an answer.
Yeah.
I'm not looking to take your problems on board. I want to help you I want you to help you work through them yourself. I don't know if I'm ever focused on solution, if I'm totally honest. It's about just starting the ball rolling with communicating.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but if I've got a lot on my mind, just having a chat in the right space is enough to sort of sometimes it's just someone that just understands. You know what I mean? Like just going, geez, the way you're feeling, I'm going to validate the way they're feeling because, it is rubbish. I can't believe all these things happen to you, or that you're feeling this way because of the pressures of this, and this. No, it's totally understandable. That can be enough for someone to take a breath and go, okay, I'm not abnormal, or humans feel this way. I would never throw advice out there that I wasn't confident in, if I'm totally honest. If I was asked for advice, if I had it, I'd be very conscious about what I'm. It's very hard with that scenario, but you get what I'm saying. I don't want to send someone down a garden path and put them in a worse position than they were in the first place by ill-advised or uneducated advice. You're laughing, so I'm guessing I've done it to you. But no, I wouldn't probably. I'd be hesitant to do that. If I didn't know the answer to something, I don't know, but I'm here to help you. We'll do it together. Yeah. You don't need to be solution based. It's about a conversation.
Yep. And one of the things that I think you should be proud of is when you have come and spoken to me, it really feels like that someone's just getting me and just really understanding me, and it's not that someone's just talking at me. I really feel like you've got your arm around my shoulder, and I think you have to genuinely care for the situation, don't you? And I think one of the points that Simon Sinek makes in one of his many, many talks that he does is that empathy doesn't require you to feel the other person's situation, and it requires you to understand it. So, and I couldn't agree with that more. And by actively listening, like you said, that sometimes is just enough, right? And if you needed more proof that you're the master in this space, when you go to ruok.org.au, right, which I think is an excellent resource if anyone feels like they need some tips on how to handle these things. They've got some really excellent resources there that I'm definitely going to put in the episode notes on a link in there. And what they talk about is 4 key steps. Ask, are you okay? Listen with an open mind, encourage action. And then the 4th one that I wanted to ask you about is then like a follow-up check-in. How important do you think that part is?
I think huge. Once you've opened up a Pandora's box when you've asked someone if they're all right. I asked because I genuinely cared. You might have an hour-long conversation, then get in your cars and drive home from work. Their head's going 10 times faster than it was prior to your interaction. For me, it's a little softer than the first one, if I'm honest. It's a text message or a I don't know, something funny or just off the cuff, hey, thinking about you. Hope you're working your way through it, or that I haven't forgot. It wasn't just a spur of the moment thing. Again, just to take a breath, and the follow-up's really important. I think you've got someone in a heightened sense at that point, and you want to, again, why did you ask in the first place? Is to help them or calm them down or get them to start communicating. So I think the check-in or the follow-up is so important. How you do that and the timing, I think that's person by person. I know between you and I, if we've had a rough week or haven't seen you for a couple of weeks, just sending you something stupid on the phone or just text message saying, hey, g'day, or funny photo or something like that, that could be enough just to sort of have a laugh. And I know you're sitting at an airport or I'm sitting at an airport, whereas it's depending on, other people we work with, it might be, I'll wait till I know I'm going to see them on Monday. We normally have a half hour before everyone gets here. I'll check in then and see how they went with it. So, but definitely follow up. I think that's really important.
So if when it comes to giving advice, so I'll come back to that giving advice part. So what the RUOK website suggests is encourage some action from them and encourage them to maybe seek some support. What kind of supports would you have in mind to suggest to someone, do you think?
I genuinely ask about, if I don't know their circle, who have you got? Who are you interacting with? Is there someone else other than the trainer that you can talk to? It all depends, again, case by case, but there's definitely some great resources online that we promote in our course content that I think I have no problem, forwarding them onto there. There's an element of online help that seems a little cold just because they've got to take that step and they're by themselves and it's I'm not suggesting for a second that it's not important. It's not great to have, but it takes a different type of person in the right mindset to sort of attack it that way. They might need a more human-to-human interaction to sort of work their way through it. But I think my biggest one is just you need to encourage the communication. So if it's with me or it's with someone else, what's your plan? Not just that you got to communicate, but what's your plan to communicate? Where are you moving from here? Who are you going to talk to? When are you going to talk to them? If you haven't talked to them by this time, what are you going to do then? Having that plan in place, I think that's a really important one. I don't have any resources off the top of my head, but for me, just getting it out of your head and verbalizing it, making it real and taking a breath can be all someone needs. I'm not a professional at all. I get a feel. I think I got a good feel for people, and I think people most people want other people to be happy, right? You want them to be in a good headspace. Communication is key. I've been big on this my whole life. I don't know where it's come from. I drive my wife nuts with it because she's not a communicator. But I'm someone that would rather sit down and have a long conversation about a problem and sort it out than let it fester or harbour. Or I'm a big believer in just like a Band-Aid. Even if I'm in the wrong, if I've got to walk away from this interaction that I stuffed it up, well then let's talk about it.
So when you're going into those conversations, do you? And I'm asking this because I'm curious. Do you do anything yourself to prepare yourself for it, or do you just naturally feel quite comfortable to go into those conversations? No, very, very natural. I don't put too much thought behind that. The emphasis being on I'm asking for them, not for me. I think if I prepped myself, I'd probably talk myself out of it. I get a gut feel and then I go with it. If I get it wrong, I get it wrong. I don't go in all guns blazing. I can back away from it pretty quick. You can ask someone, hey, everything all good? They can say, fine. No worries, just checking. I don't think I've lost anything there. And I'm not worried even if I did. But I don't overthink it. If you get a gut feel, I would say trust it. 10 times out of 10, always trust it. No one's going to walk away from someone asking, are you okay, being angry. No, I just don't. That's a good point. See that happening. I mean, and even if they did, that's okay. That's okay. Another human was looking out. I think the one thing we can all agree on is that life's tough. Everyone's got stuff going on, not just work. Life is tough. It's nice for someone to check in, whether it's a stranger or someone you know. Definitely, mate. Definitely. Let's bring this back to the tradie or the blue collar worker. Maybe, and we work a lot with tradies and contractors who might work in teams of 2 or 3 people, right? Small businesses. But then we also work with blue collar workers who work as a part of a big corporation. So what's, I think, important for people in those settings to remember is a lot of these big organizations have employee assistance programs, right, that they make available to employees and their direct family members. And it's normally a very it's obviously a confidential service that they can access for someone to talk to get maybe pointed towards some resources or services and things like that. And I think sometimes there's a stigma around that might get back to my boss that I needed help, that I'm not right, or so I'm not going to go there. And it might feel like a weakness. I'm showing some weakness, or they might just generally feel uncomfortable about it. I've utilized an employee assistance program before when I worked at a large company, and it pointed me in the direction of getting some help. And so I couldn't speak highly enough about these facilities that people have access to when they work for a large company. So I think we need to just be mindful, and like you said, you're not there to solve the problem. That's just another resource or another suggestion you can make as a follow-up action on their part. Have you thought about calling the assistance program? It could really help you. If
you get to a situation with a fellow employee where you've asked and now you're stumbling over, a response, or what do I do here? That would be amazing, wouldn't it? If you had the guts to, one, ask, but then two, fall back on the systems are there for you. It can be daunting. I agree. There's a bit of a you touched on. We'll get back to my boss, but I feel like it's the structure of the setting. Going into someone's office or writing that email, or it's not as easy as someone just having a chat with you in the lunchroom. It takes a lot of work on that person as well. I think I'm human. We're lazy in even if it's on our own benefit. That's where I reckon someone asking if you're okay and then helping that or facilitating that. Maybe that's where you interject. Maybe that's, what if I touch base and see if I can get some information for you? I'm happy to take that. If you think it's a bullet, maybe I can take it for you and get you the information, or take it off my own back and find some information that I can hand on to this person. But there are some amazing companies out there that we're lucky enough to work with that have got some systems out there they should be very proud of. And I'm not going to share, but we're aware of some stories where it's been extremely positive, that their interaction was 100% needed, timely, and really effective. And I think it's important people walk away knowing that they're not just in a wishy-washy initiative. They're actually there for their workforce. I just talked about before about building a team. You're in that 3-man team laying gas services. You want to get the most out of that 3-man team. How do you do that? You improve the quality of the team. That's what those services are for. I want a happy, healthy, mentally healthy workforce, and I'm prepared to put my money where my mouth is and provide you with services so I can have that.
Yeah, definitely. One of the really interesting things I've noticed, and when you talk about people that work in these settings, and if I reflect back on a lot of the conversations and sessions I've had with some of these people over the last 12 months, and I always ask at the very start, what do you think are the most important qualities a person should have as a leader? And I would say more than 95% of the time, one of the first responses I get is technical knowledge of the job. Right? Now, I'm not saying that that's not important for someone who's leading a team of technical workers, but when I frame the question again for them and say, let me just ask you again, does it change if I say, if I want you to focus on what are the leadership qualities, does that change your view? If I just highlight that word leadership to be an effective leader, and for people to still think that the technical knowledge of the job is one of the most important things, do you see that as a little bit of a problem?
I do, massively. The most knowledgeable person in the team is very rarely the best leader. They're a great resource, but that's not what you're talking about, right? I feel like for me, about getting your hands dirty, that's been something from young. It's about, for me, it's work ethic. A leader that's prepared to get in there and get stuck in with their team, that has always been a huge one for me. If you're going to lead by example, I'm following. I'm all about it. You've got buy-in from me, but I do think it's up to the individual. It would be a bit of a cop out to say, well, he or she has been around longer, knows more than I do, they must be a leader. Very rarely is that the case. A communicator, a work ethic, I suppose, support. Those are all far greater leadership qualities that I'd be looking for than someone that knows more about what we're actually doing.
Yeah, yeah. Because the role of the leader is to inspire people to strive for better, right, and to reach further. And we spoke before about the fact that people absorb and take on energy of the people around them. And if we set an environment where we're motivating, there's a couple of different ways we can motivate people to perform better. One of them is by fear, and things like if you don't improve, you're you're on the chopping block, or you won't get that promotion, or there might be some penalty involved to get that performance result. Now, you might get that performance result, but what's the cost of that, right? And I would argue there's a massive cost to that, because you're then getting people who are wanting to perform out of fear of consequences, as opposed to, geez, it feels good to be part of a high performing team.
But there's a shelf life on what you just spoke about.
Yeah.
On that first example, there's a shelf life. That while things are rosy or going well, or you're getting that reward at the end of that rainbow, it's all good. At the first hurdle, though, I reckon that team falls over.
Yeah.
We are in an industry where turnover is quite big. It's part of the territory, whether people float into the industry, float out, or bounce around. But we also are in a unique situation where we see a lot of contractors hold on to staff for a long, long, long time that don't go anywhere. There's something to be said about those leaders, right? They've built a workplace that's obviously doing something right. I reckon if you ask those people, it would be something to do with support, or the fact that they care about their workforce, have been with them through thick and thin, and they've built that team mentality really well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess, I had some questions to ask you, and I've gone through all of them, but I think, what would you say to tradies or people in these kind of blue collar environments, or people who are new leaders that kind of feel like they might need some help in this space? Or what if we let's look at a tradie who might feel like, look, this is just some fluffy crap that's not applicable to me. All good for you, but keep that out of my space. It's got nothing to do with me. I run a tight ship. My guys do what I say. What would you say to that person?
It's an interesting one. We're challenged at the start of every training session. We've got to incentivize our students to buy in for the 8 hours we have them, right? Identifying or highlighting the goal is a big one. What are they going to get out of it? And also that I'm prepared to get stuck in and help you do it. I suppose, look, yeah, you could run your business probably successfully doing that. But will you build the relationships over the course of your time in any industry with the mentality that it's my way or the highway? I don't know everything. I've been in the gas industry for 23 years, and I'm learning still, and will always learn. I feel like there's always opportunities for growth, even if it's just in human-to-human interaction. Through these courses, I've made that highlight that since you left school, how much work have you done on you as a person and how you communicate with another person? And I'd argue, unless you're a really exceptional human, probably none. How do I talk? How do I manage this? How do I go about this situation? This person's feeling that. We don't spend any time practicing that or educating ourselves on that. Imagine if we did. Imagine if we could improve the relationships at work, at home, in life, how much more beneficial that would be to our lifestyle. I think the big thing was, if I was talking to those people directly, what would you get out of that? Well, the sky's the limit. Where do you want your company to go to? If you get genuine buy-in, I'm sorry to go back to football, but we were extremely successful when I played, and it was literally from buy-in. We had some great players, but everyone believed in what we were doing, and that's why we didn't lose. We were very, very successful. It was that buy-in is that's another weapon to you and your company. That's what I'd say to those people, that don't build for tomorrow, build for 5-10 years from now, and looking at these systems or looking at what else I can do, that'll help you do that.
And sometimes all it takes is to build that level of trust. In a lot of cases, just a little bit of empathy, right?
Absolutely.
A little bit of consideration.
Every bit of energy you are prepared to spend on your staff, you've done this with me. I don't think you do it for benefit, but it is a benefit to you. It's a byproduct of your investment, which is time and effort and emotion or empathy into a staff member. Only comes back to you tenfold, and that's my standpoint on it.
I couldn't stand behind that point any stronger. So what I think we should do now, I mean, I've run out of things to ask you now, but I keep looking at our empty glasses, and we've got a nice bottle of whiskey there. I think we should wrap it up and have one more whiskey before we hit the road. But I just want to thank you for your time, mate, and sharing your insights. And I really hope that people listening to this get something out of what you've shared, because I think if anyone happens to listen to this that knows you, that I think you'll really they'll get it, and I think they're completely on board with those messages. But if you're finding yourself feeling like a little challenged by this, just have another listen. Look up some other stuff. Listen to other people talking about this, not just John and I, and just see what other messages people are talking. There's endless stuff on empathy and leadership out there that you should tap into. But John, mate, thank you, and really honoured that you're the first guest on this for me, because you're a dear friend, and I really respect what you do in this space.
I want to thank you for having me, and I'm extremely proud to be, one, on here, but two, to see you go with something you're passionate about and see it through. So more strength to your arm, mate.
Thank you, mate. So everyone, we're going to wrap this up. We're going to have another whiskey, and another episode won't be too far away. Make sure you subscribe. Feel free to give the 5 stars. That wouldn't hurt. Stay well, stay safe, and we'll speak to you again next time. Thanks.